Awesome. Welcome to another episode of Fight the Burnout. Today we have Kristin. She is from Mommy Income. She's all the way over, obviously, on the other side of the world from me in Michigan, in the United States, where, yeah, things are fun at the moment all around the world. But as usual, Kristin, I will let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do, who you are, and a little bit of your backstory.
Awesome. Well, I am Kristin Ostrander. I am the owner and founder of mommyincome.com, where I teach people to start and grow businesses on Amazon, so e-commerce. And I've been selling on e-commerce between eBay and Amazon and some other Shopify and some other ventures since 2003. So I'm a bit of a veteran here, some OG going on. And it's been almost 18 years here now. So yeah, that's kind of how I got my start.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. I bet last year we got pretty busy for you.
Yeah, we were actually pretty busy, although some of the things that we sell were, believe it or not, a lot of party goods and people weren't gathering and having parties. So that took a bit of a hit. But all of our other things did really well to where it kind of met a little bit of a balance. So yeah, I mean, I've been doing online a really long time and there's always the ups and downs. And yeah, 2020 was challenging in all kinds of ways. So we'll put it that way.
Always, and you wanted to make sure that you're diversified, and if you weren't, you got diversified very quickly and very
Exactly.
quickly. Okay, cool. So before we go into kind of maybe a story around burnout with yourself, when you've identified yourself going through it, what do you define burnout as for you? Because I know everybody has a different kind of spectrum of it.
It's meeting that limit where you have no capacity to do anything more. And as a matter of fact, all the things that you're taking on, I tend to be a serial entrepreneur. So I have my hands in many pots at many times, all the time, and probably some art projects and some other things I take on that I probably shouldn't have. And when I just have no capacity for any more, for breathing time, for white space, for just, I don't know, just to go outside and enjoy the fresh air, then all of a sudden nothing seems to matter anymore. And everything is just super overwhelming. And the things I used to love and care about, I don't care about anymore. And that's when I know there's these red flags of burnout coming up because I have literally chosen to overwhelm myself.
Yeah, gotcha. Do you have an experience or time that pops up directly for you?
Certainly. How about now? How about
Okay.
it's just really, I mean, if I'm just being honest here, I tend to have, because I have a lot of hands in the cookie jar, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory with that. Mommy Income is my teaching business. So I've been doing e-commerce for, over 18 years now. I have an eBay store that's a personal eBay store. And then I have an Amazon store where my mom is my full-time business partner. And we do over 7 figures every year. And we have a team of people. So I'm leading that company. And as that company and passion grew and we started to grow with that, I had developed a passion for teaching people how to start and grow businesses. So I started Mommy Income. So right now, I currently run 2 very successful businesses, and burnout is a regular thing because my ideas don't stop. And
Yeah.
so because my ideas don't stop, I've always got this idea and that idea, and I'm doing coaching and my next wave, I wrote a book a couple of years ago. And so I'm always adding these things in and then going, why do I feel so tired? So yeah, that I tend to burn myself out, but as I'm growing, I'm learning a little bit more of the better yeses instead of saying yes to all the things, and putting things on a priority list to really help me kind of move out of that, because I'm a serial just plate piler. I guess I'm always putting more and more on. So I've had to learn how to kind of cope with my own self-imposed burnout.
Yeah. Okay. So constantly going through these stages, which I personally believe that we always do. Like I had a massive, probably a few of them actually, but I have one big one, which is why I started the podcast, why I started doing life coaching, why I went into this improving people's lives journey, all because I wanted to improve my own life first, because I burned out so bad. What are the things that you feel like you constantly you've learned during this journey, and maybe even tell us, maybe while we're talking here at the moment, tell us some of the things that you see common traits of that cause the burnout, but then the common things that you do to overcome them, just so that people know, so that maybe they can start using them, or maybe even yourself, you'll start recognizing things earlier.
That's a great question. And what there's that's two questions. So first, I'm going to handle the what you do to see it coming. And I think, when you start to see it coming or you realize what's kind of causing it, then you can actually do something about it. So I think over time, seeing what's causing it is the fact that I'm such an idea factory and I want all the things to work out all the time, and I'm multi-passionate. So it's not just like I'm okay with this one lane. I have to be in all the lanes. And I realized that that's probably not going away. That's a personality thing. That's a business trait. That is just who I am at my core. And so what I've had to do is learn how to manage it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, and this part of what I do is really creating priority. When I find myself feeling like burned out and like I literally cry on Monday morning instead of spring out of bed saying, yay, I get to do what I get to do, because I do love my jobs and what I do. But I think we go through ebbs and flows of stages, and we go through points where things are super important to us, and then other things become a little bit more important, or you discover a new and better passion that you want to move through. And that takes time and energy. And I think when I start burning out, it's because I realize that I'm putting an idea on the back burner that I really want on the front burner. And I can't figure out how to switch the burners and make one a priority and one less a priority. So instead, I burn the midnight oil. I stay up later. I get up earlier. I work longer. I become this workaholic. And then I realize that I'm a stranger to people and family. And everyone's like, where have you been? You're doing all these things. And I'm like, okay, that's time to take a step back. Which one of these things am I going to make a priority? Because in a typical stove, right, there's 4 burners, unless you have that big beefy industrial like kitchen style one, which wouldn't we all love that? Give me more burners to fill up, right? So that's probably what I do anyways, just put more stuff on. But then you only have 4, so I kind of think of like the things that I have going on, and I really am only allowed to have 4. And so then when those things get too full, something's got to come off and for something to go on. And there's the front ones and the back ones. So I kind of use that analogy of like, okay, it's the plates are getting full, the stove's getting full, like which burners am I going to put front, back, and kind of make those priorities. So since I've been able to sense that, it's also that time where you sense you're probably needing to pivot if things aren't going as well as you wanted them to before. And you're starting to lose either your interest or your zeal or whatever it is for the thing that you're doing. I think it's time to really consider pivoting at that point. And I can see those times in my life when I was overwhelmed and burned out and ready to literally, when my husband hears me say, I'm literally going to quit everything and go work at Starbucks, he's going, okay, what do we need to reevaluate here? What is it that you need? Because when you say that, I know that all hell is breaking loose soon if we don't, figure this out.
Yeah. All right. So you use your husband. You also identify which, that you need to actually alleviate your plate in that. How do you, because I know there's so many people out there, and I've talked to so many different people, they struggle to actually go, shit, which pot do I take off the burner? Which pot is actually the least important, or which one, I can't move that one because that has, how do you do it?
Well, how I do it is part of what's in my book. Actually, I ended up writing this as part of my book, Dream Big, Step Small, because it's called the In a Perfect World. And, like people have these BHAGs or something like those big, hairy, audacious goals. And they, that's the thing. I think it's Collins that did that. Yeah. And anyway, people have these big goals that they want to go for, and they want to align every single thing that's that. Well, for me, I created it in a perfect world instead. I know there's no such thing in a perfect world, but it's the idea that like, if you could literally create the perfect work life, the perfect business life, the perfect home life, whatever that is, or, this whole conglomerate of it all, what would that look like? What would you be doing? What would you not be doing? What would you intend to outsource? What would you continue doing? Or another way to look at it, I mean, without going into the entire, in a perfect world and how you build that, because there's definitely a process. I'm a process person. So, there's a process for that. But as you're creating that, you start aligning your decisions and what you put on your plate along with your In a Perfect World. So when I realize that I'm overextending myself and I'm finding less joy in some of these things and more joy in these other things, or something new I'd like to explore, I go back to my In a Perfect World that I built and say, does this thing align with my perfect scenario? And building that up really helps you to say, okay, what I really want is XYZ. What I really want is to write another book. So if I'm going to write another book, is this taking away from that, or is this enhancing that? And so those are how I can keep staying in the lane and saying, okay, this is something I really like doing. Let's find a place for it on the calendar, or it doesn't align with my priorities right now. And so we're going to put it on an idea list to look at in 6 months. Because I'm so afraid to lose the ideas that I start them all. Otherwise, they won't get done. Right. So now I have this amazing Google Doc called ideas. And every time I have these great ideas, they land somewhere so that I don't have this fear that I'm going to forget all about them. And then I can go, okay, this isn't a priority right now. So instead, let's go on the ideas list. And when I'm ready for that next thing, I go to the ideas list and kind of pick some stuff off of that to say, okay, this can be what's next because this serves this goal. And this can be what's next that comes off because it no longer is serving the goal that I have.
That's awesome. I call it your ultimate vision instead of your inner perfect world. I call it your ultimate vision. What do you want your world to look like? What do you want your life to look like? It's pretty impressive. So, what are some key things that you do daily that helps you prevent from from getting to a major burnout? Like, you're pretty good at getting yourself to that challenging state of burnout, but from literally going screw it and actually going and working at Starbucks. What do you do to prevent yourself? Like, is it these things that we've talked about, or is there anything else?
There is something else, actually. It's called the 15-minute hustle. So I think a part of preventing burnout is time management and organization. I'm just going to be real. Like, most of it are these things, right? It's like we get burned out because there's too much going on because we don't know how to manage it. And either A, we've said yes to too many things and something needs to go, or B, we're just mismanaging all the things we're responsible for. We're not delegating enough. We're not really doing the things. I mean, just sometimes when you're an entrepreneur, you're CEO and janitor. Like, you don't have people to help you do all the things, right? So you have to manage and juggle and figure out which balls in the air are made of glass and which ones are made of plastic, and like figure out which ones you can drop without the world crashing to an end. And so when you start really prioritizing that, I do that with my 15-minute hustle. My 15-minute hustle is this strategy that I by force had to try when my son was really little. So I first started my e-commerce business, I had 2 young children at home. My son was about 3, and he is like Curious George meets Dennis the Menace. He was just super wild. And he was a great, good-hearted kid, but he was always into trouble and always breaking something, climbing something, hurting himself, just all these crazy things. And I'm running this business at home, and I also have a newborn baby to take care of at this time. And I'm like, how am I going to get all this stuff done with these crazy kids around? And I had to work by necessity. It was just something that I was helping support the family at the time, and we were a young family, and it was necessary for me to do that, but I wanted to be home with them. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? So I realized when I started my e-commerce business that I had a lot of tasks I had to get done, and with these kids, like, I was either going to be literally working from midnight until 4 a.m. and never sleeping, or I had to figure something else out. And so what I realized is I usually had about a 15-minute window before all hell was going to break loose with the kids. And so I made this master list of like all these tasks I had to do. I had a business one, I had a domestic one, I had just all these like different like errands that need to be written. And I am not organized, but I did this out of necessity because I thought something's got to give, or I'm literally just going to be a 24-hour robot living on espresso, because that's all I could actually do. Because of that, I was like, okay, master list. What are the things I can do in 15 minutes that I can just get done or get started? Because that's all I'm going to get before I have to come back. And it helped me to forget where I was and what I was doing. So I made these master lists of business tasks, and I realized that so many of them could be done way faster than 15 minutes, but it was just something to go to that you didn't have to get decision fatigue. You didn't have to sit down and be like, I have 15 minutes. There's no time to make a decision in 15 minutes of what I'm going to do and how I'm going to get started. You just need to go. So I create the list ahead of time of all the things that need to be done. And then I say, okay, I've got this 15-minute window. How am I going to move my business forward? What do I need to do? And I go to the task and be like, oh, I need to write some marketing emails. Great. I can get that started. And even if that 15-minute timer goes off, or, all hell does break loose behind you, then you know exactly what you were working on. You can come back to it. And there's not that sitting down and kind of shuffling the papers and going, what am I going to do with my day today? Or how am I going to figure this out? Or what really needs to be prioritized? You've already taken care of that. So then it's just execution time.
Yeah, no, I love that. The make a list, organize it, and then just grab something and tick it or start ticking it. Now that's pretty epic. So what do you do for you? Because I know from my experience and from all the research and all the talking to lots of people and coaching lots of people, you've got to do things for yourself, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, yeah. What do you do for yourself to recharge?
Several things. I love to play cornhole. My husband and I learned how to play, and it's just something we play in the summer and just different things. And so I have a setup in my yard, and when I really just need a few minutes of just like fresh air and breathe time, I just go out there and throw a few bags. So that's something I do like when the weather's nice and when it's not nice. But I also schedule at least a half, if not mostly a full day of what I call PPD days every single month. If it's not on my calendar, it's not going to happen. So I realized that I was never on my calendar, and that wasn't fair. And so I thought, okay, if I'm living and dying by this calendar, that I'm actually going to schedule days where I get to do whatever I want to do. And so, and I get to, and part of that would be maybe some business education. There's a webinar I want to watch, and I have to watch the replay because it's not live, or I just want to take a class, or I want to just sit somewhere and read a book or listen to some podcasts and things without, interruptions and everything. And so I literally schedule those things on my calendar like once a month. Usually it's like the fourth Friday of the month or something, and I'm just like, okay, I'm having these like personal development days is what I call them. Like teachers used to take personal development days when we were growing up, so I thought, well, why can't I do that? And so I just write it in, and I'm like, you know what, the phone goes off, I go maybe to a different location instead of my home office where I'm always am all the time and where everyone else is all the time these days. I'm just like, okay, I'm breaking free. And might take myself out to lunch, might take a class, might meet a friend, just whatever I feel like planning or not planning that day. And I think that's really, really important. I also aim to take off the entire month of July. This is a new thing because of burnout. When I redid my course, I have a really big course I teach called Wholesale Bundles in the Amazon world. And creating that course was just so much work. It was wonderful, and I'm so glad I did it, but it was a lot of work for long months of time. And I vowed that summer, when I spent most of the summer doing this, I'm like, next year I'm taking off the month of July. I'm just not doing anything. And I'm like, I had planned ahead of time. I'm literally just going to take off the month of July. And what was amazing about that when it came to burnout, which I'll just be honest, it didn't work. I did not take the entire month of July off, but I took most of it off, maybe working 2 days a week. Okay. So let me just be fair about that. But what I realized when I decided I was taking this month off was that all the things that I worry about that burn me out, that seem 911 any given day of any given business, those aren't as important as you realize they are. And like, your community won't die if you send a replay out of a podcast instead of making another live episode, right? They'll be like, oh yeah, I heard this one before, but it's a good one, so I'm listening in again. No one's gonna get mad and just be like, oh, Kristin didn't make a brand new episode this week, I'm really mad, I'm gonna write her and tell her all about it. No. And all your membership people aren't going to quit their membership with you if you decide you're taking a month off or a vacation. You do not have to be on social media 24/7. As a matter of fact, one of the healthiest things I ever did was set myself business hours and boundaries when it came to social media and emails and all that stuff. It's literally like, just because I'm an online influencer doesn't mean I'm available to everybody 24 hours a day. And in the beginning I was, and that led to mega burnout, to the point where I literally hate social media at this point, because I feel like every person has access to my
to your life.
Inbox.
Yeah. No. What about your team? What kind of things? Obviously, you got a team that works for you. What do you do to help them make sure that they don't burn out?
I ask them on regular basis, what is on your plate? How do you feel? As a matter of fact, we just hired a brand new team member because I realized that my in Mommy Income, I call her my brand ambassador. She's like a unicorn. She literally can do so many things and has so many skills, and she's the online business manager. But as we started growing, we realized that some of the things that we really help grow the business were kind of slipping through the wayside because we had just managing more things, more podcasts, and we had more appearances in different places and more opportunities to, do things. And she was managing all that and all this stuff. And I was like, I think that you need an assistant yourself. And she's like, I think you're right. I said, because I feel like there's so many things that every meeting we come back to, every Monday morning we have a meeting. And every time we come back to this meeting, there's a couple things that are always still on this list that are just keep being pushed down. And I said, either A, these are not important, or B, we need some help. And so, just realizing that, that's another thing of helping with burnout, is really just realizing that like you can onboard a team member without having to have somebody be full-time. And that's a mistake I made early on in business. I thought, if I don't have 30 or 40 hours a week for this person to give them full-time, no one's going to work for me for 5 hours a week. But they will. There are freelancers out there that do really, really good things, and they only want to do the thing that they're good at, and they do it for multiple people, and it helps keep them creative and, inspired to be able to work on different projects for different people and not always like feel like they're in the same bubble all the time. And so I realized I could outsource either project based or even have someone as a permanent team member that either works on a retainer type thing or that works literally 5 to 10 hours a week and they're happy with it. So outsourcing is the best way to really freedom.
Yeah, you're definitely right there. I've interviewed actually a few people that have started up or have virtual assistant agencies, and that's why they did it, is because initially they needed some stuff taken off of their plate. They saw the impact of it, and now they help other people get it off. So cool. That's awesome. So just asking them and just going through with them what it is that they need. And I think that's something that in big corporations and big corp, they don't so much do as much anymore. I think they're starting to do it now, especially with COVID, they've had to. Yeah, no, that's awesome, Kristin. So I'm a why guy. My real passion is actually finding out and knowing people's whys, or helping people find their why. That drives them, takes them through the easy times, obviously, but really gets them through those hard times where you want to go work at Starbucks. So
Right.
what would you say? My why, I know my why is I want to help people. I want to help prevent pain in people's lives. And I've identified this by doing a lot of work on myself and really asking myself why things are important. But I know it also stems from my childhood, and I believe everybody's why does stem from something that's happened in their childhood or the experiences that they had. Do you have an idea of what your why is?
Of course. It really is creating your own way. And I want people to realize that there's hope in the situations that they're in, and they don't have to stay where they are. And I had to learn that. I didn't have to stay where I was. I didn't have to fit the mold or the bubble that someone wanted to put me in, even in college. I mean, these are great things. I went to college for a couple of years. I got a full scholarship, and they basically told me, go home and don't come back until you can declare a major. And I was like, but there's nothing here for me. There's nothing here that you have that you're offering that sounds appealing to me in any sort of way. It's just not for me. And until I discovered that I could do entrepreneurship, and I still to this day have people coming to me going, do you still do that eBay, that Amazon thing? And sometimes the pride in me wants to be like, yeah, the 7-figure business I run, that little Amazon thing you're talking about. Yeah, I still do that. Yeah. And so not to be snarky, but just to realize that like, that's kind of, even I have a son who's graduated from high school, and he's 20, and my daughter's getting ready to graduate high school, in a month or so. And, she said she's fearing this big question about everybody. Oh, so what are your college plans? And what are these? And what are you doing? And she's like, I don't know. And I don't know if college and 4-year degree is right for me. And I want to kind of take some time to figure it out. And she's a very responsible person. She's not saying, I want to be a bum and do nothing. She just is like, feels the pressure to be like, oh my gosh, you must graduate. And 3 months later, you have to go to a 4-year university. And then you have to, she's just like, maybe that path is not for me. And I think I like to show my life proves that there are other options, and you can make your own way. And it doesn't mean it's easy, and it's definitely not fast, but you can make your own way. And I think my why is to really give people that hope that they don't have to stay stuck in a 9-to-5 if they don't want that. They don't have to put their own passions on the back burner if they're moms and have children. There's a way to do both. If you're in a dead-end corporate job and you just hate the cubicle that you're in and you feel like you're stuck in that life, there are options. It doesn't mean it's going to be fast or easy, but there's options. So my why is really driven by my own ability to show that. But then a lot of my students have broken free from 9-to-5 jobs, and they've quit to do their own thing. And just spreading that hope around that it doesn't matter who, what, when, where, why, and how. If you really want something different, there are tons of options for you.
I love that. I love that. And I love that your daughter is actually questioning it, because I know, like, when I went off to go to university or college, um, it was like, you have, my dad was, you have to get a bachelor's, this and that. I was like, I wanted to just go back, and because I grew up teenage years sailing around the world. That's how I ended up in New Zealand. I was like, I just want to go sailing more. I think this is what I want to do. And then did a little bit of it, didn't want to do that, and piddled around in about 3 or 4 different things. But I think it's also it's the new thing is, well, I think the stats, I want to say it's like 80% of people that go to university or college and do the 4-year degree don't actually use that degree.
I know. Instead, they could have been kind of getting some hands-on experience in the real life, real world, and saying, okay, I definitely don't want to work at Starbucks the rest of my life. Nothing against Starbucks, but, or they say, you know what, that's actually something they might want to do. Right now, my son is building an album. He's making an album. He's a musician. He's making an album. In the meantime, he's delivering pizza, and he actually likes doing that because it's like something new and busy and something he does every day. And he works in a very busy area. And so that pays the bills, gives him a flexible schedule, and he's able to do both at the same time. And so I was like, you know what? You have to work for a living the rest of your life. You might as well do something you love. Otherwise, you literally hate yourself for 8 to 12 hours a day.
40, 60 hours a week, you're sitting there hating what you're doing. It's not right. And that's why, like, I don't know if you're familiar with Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. They started up a thing a couple years ago around helping people teach their knowledge, because they're like, the universities and colleges are the stuff that they're teaching is some stuff, yes, doctors, lawyers, things you have to, but things like, certain things you can learn from the people that have done it instead, which is awesome. And that's like, you're interested in something, you can go do it, and you can do it for a hundredth of the price of what 4 years at college is going to cost you. Yet you can learn the stuff that actually works, that people are actually like doing. Like, say yourself, you teaching people like you do with Mommy Income, same exact thing. You're doing it. So tell us a little bit about Mommy Income.
I started Mommy Income. I remember sitting specifically in my desk, and I had just I hadn't even had my third child yet, and she was kind of our icing on our cake. And last over, so there's 10 years between my first one and my last one. And so, I was growing my business a little bit, and I was like, I wonder eventually if I want a .com. And I'm like, what would I call it? And I was just like, I don't know, Mommy's Income. And I was like, I didn't like the S. So I was like, that was just like my thing. I was like, I had these kids and I was working from home, just trying, working from home before it was cool, right? But like literally trying to just sell stuff at 15-minute hustles when I could, things like that. And I was just like, what do I call this? Like Mommy's Income. And then I end up just dropping the S. So Mommy Income was like, I didn't do anything with the domain for probably 5 years. I just bought it at one point and was like, okay, maybe I'll do something with this. And when I was invited to, I was heavily participating in Facebook groups when they first came out, as far as sharing my Amazon journey, because I had a lot of success with my Amazon journey, and I wanted to basically help people with those shortcuts, right? You had mentioned your goal, your why is to help people avoid pain. And I guess mine is similar in a sense that I was just like, there wasn't a whole lot of hand holding for me. I had to make a lot of mistakes and figure stuff out, because there wasn't just any training. There was just like, you kind of figured stuff out, and there's tons of training now. But before then, I was just kind of fumbling in the dark and hoping things would work, and, just trying and trial and error. And so finally made a way and really started making a consistent growth in business, and see, 6 figures keep turning over and growing. I was like, people need to know how to do this, and how that there's hope for that I was told by many people that like, this is just a side hustle. Like, you're never really going to like make a living doing this. And I kind of have a little bit of a silent sass that's like, okay, watch this. I don't just say it out loud, but I'm like, oh, I
call it your hold my beer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Hold my beer, watch this.
Yeah, just wait. It's not going to be overnight, but just wait. And so I just have a little tiny bit of that. I'm not really a competitive person. I am more for myself. I love to challenge myself, but it's just part of that, of just saying, yeah, it is possible. And I've seen people do it over and over now that I'm teaching them, like, here's how to avoid the mistakes, and here's what you can do and not do. And, being honest with people. So many people now, instant gratification, right? They want everything right now. They try it once or twice and think, oh, this isn't for me, or it's not working. And I'm like, I was like, and every successful person that you see out there has literally
thousands failures.
Thousands of state failures, and most of the time at least a decade of building this up to where you didn't really see it. You know, you don't see Tony, you see Tony Robbins now, right? But you don't see the Tony Robbins that cut his teeth talking at senior centers and, you know, like high school gyms to like 50 parents and like places like that where you just are like, literally, I'm speaking for free. No one cares, no one knows you, no one does
Or
anything.
he tells the story of his first thing that he booked, or one of the first venues that he booked, and that he said he put out enough seats for 500 people, I think it was, and 2 people turned up.
Yeah. You know, and it's just like, and yet he kept going because that's something you really believe in. And if you're keeping believing, I mean, I remember one of my first speaking engagements, I gave an amazing talk to the completely wrong audience. And so of course there wasn't a whole lot of response to where it should be, because it's like, oh, that was great if you were XYZ, but you're in the wrong room. That's like, great.
This is why I'm so passionate about your why, is because when you have your why, then those failures, you could call them, or learning experiences, as I like to call them, it keeps you driving through those. You keep going, well, I'm here to create less pain. Shit, I'm sure somebody in this audience, or somebody that's listened, or somebody on some social media platform has seen it, and they've had a little bit less pain in their life, or, you know, they've created something out of nothing from it. Cool. So when it comes to you know, creating this this endeavor, you know, this income as a mother, what's the number one piece of advice you would give to them?
Well, I think I'm going to go general here, because most of the time my audience is Amazon based. I'm like, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. But I think in general, it's small, consistent steps. That's what I tell people all the time. That's what my book is about. That's what everything's about. It's literally small, consistent steps. When people hear that we went from home foreclosure to a 7-figure business, people, oh my gosh, how did you ever do that? And I'm literally like, one tiny baby step at a time, just making the next right decision, the next right step, and not looking at the big picture. The big picture is overwhelming to me, honestly. Like looking at, when people are like, in 10 years, I'm going to have this, 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 and this. I'm like, you don't know that. You can get hit by a bus tomorrow. I'm like, I'm going to plan for like, you know, maybe 10 minutes. Okay, not really, but you know, that's so overwhelming. And so to be able to say to someone, just take small, very consistent steps. I don't care if literally, you know, if somebody wants to lose 100 pounds, like you don't look at that big thing and be like, I would lose 100 pounds. You literally look at like, okay, today I'm going to walk for 5 minutes, and I'm going to walk for 5 minutes every single day for a week. And just looking at the longer picture of knowing, okay, 100 pounds is this goal out here, but right now my next goal is just 5-minute walk every day. Be consistent. Don't make excuses for yourself. If you really, really want that why, then you'll do it, and make it, the smaller it is, the easier it is to do. So make it small, make it consistent.
That is awesome. So I know it's mommyincome.com, correct? So that is one way people can get in touch with you. How else can people get in touch with you if they want to find out about, you know, more about Mommy Income, or they want to find out more about you, or even reach out to you?
If they want to reach out, you can go to mommyincome.com and send me an email. I am at mommyincome at all of the socials, so that's where you'll find me there. And if you want a copy of the book, go to kristinostrander.com or Amazon and buy Dream Big, Step Small. That's where you can find most of the principles I've been talking about. They're in more detail in the book there, so that's another way to connect.
That's awesome. And we'll put those details down in the description as well, so that people can just kind of have a look at them if they weren't able to write that down. Last question I have for you is, what is your top tip to self-happiness?
Gosh, a top tip. I literally thought of like 10 things all at once. Really is doing something that you love every single day, something that gives you energy, literally something that is like, if you had an extra hour in your day that no one's commanding and no one's asking, what would you do with that hour? And that response is something you should be doing every single day. And we don't make time for those things. We're too burned out, right? We're too burned out to do making time for something that literally puts you on a smile on your face for no reason, not for profit, not for anyone else, but just literally like, this makes me happy right now. So whatever that is, do that every day.
No, I love that. I say this all the time. I live by a pyramid that I created, that I came up with, and the bottom layer, the foundation, is self. So that you just hit it spot on. In my eyes, you hit it spot on. And I know from experience, and obviously from yourself, you run a couple businesses, 7 figures, all and you're still not burned out. You're not going and working at Starbucks and giving up on it.
Not today.
Not today. But it is. Just do that one thing that makes you happy every day. Awesome, Kristin. Thank you very much. Any last words that you'd like to add in or say?
I want people to understand that hope is possible to do something different. And all that they really need to do is decide what that hope, what that joy, what that in a perfect world is for them, and just take one step towards it. Keep doing that one step at a time.
That's awesome, Kristin. Some great words there. As you guys know, this is Fight the Burnout. My motto, as we say all the time, is train hard, test easy. I learned this from my policing background, also learned it from my sailing background, just didn't recognize it until literally I left both of those. But when you train hard, or you train, training hard is not necessarily getting out there and beasting yourself, but it's also sometimes taking a step back and doing that thing that you love, or taking one little baby step towards something that you desire to have in this ultimate vision, or this imperfect world, as Kristin called it. But at the end of the day, if we're not constantly training hard, then when we get tested, we get knocked back so far, and we take 3 steps back and only 1 step forward. So constantly test yourself, constantly train hard. And if you want any more information, you want to reach out to us, find out more, or you want to be on the show or anything like that, just send us an email at fighttheburnoutpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll respond back. We'll get back in touch with you, hop on a phone call or whatever we need to do. But also, share this out, share these out to people so that they can get more knowledge, they can learn more, so that they can train harder, so that when they are tested, it's easier. But till next time, thank you very much. Make sure you like, subscribe, all those fun things, and we will hear from you next time. Love you all. Bye.